March 15, 1943, Berlin, Germany. Kapitän Sir C. Heinrich Müller lifted the intelligence report from his desk, his weathered face creasing with practiced contempt. "Look at this," Müller said, dropping the document with a dismissive flick of his wrist. "The Americans claim they'll build 50 merchant ships monthly." Korvetenkapitän Ernst Lehmann stepped forward, nodding sharply. "Propaganda, Herr Kapitän, desperate American propaganda." Fregatenkapitän Karl Weber, chief of naval intelligence analysis, shifted uncomfortably. "The reconnaissance photographs suggest their production facilities are indeed expanding rapidly, gentlemen. We should consider—" But Müller waved him off. "Consider what? That these soft Americans, who couldn't build a destroyer properly in 1940, will somehow outproduce the Reich. We sank 1,664 merchant ships in 1942 alone, averaging 139 per month. At Convoy SC-7, we destroyed 21 ships with only 2 U-boats. At Convoy HX-229, 38 ships sunk in 3 days. At Convoy ONS-5, 12 ships destroyed in 4 hours. Müller's personal record included 17 Allied vessels sunk in his last patrol, representing 94,000 tons. The mathematics were undeniable. German U-boats could sink ships faster than American shipyards could possibly replace them. What Müller didn't know, what none of them could have known as they reviewed intelligence reports in that Berlin headquarters, was that American Liberty ship production would destroy 783 U-boats within 24 months. The numbers would become apocalyptic. 2,710 Liberty ships built against 1,162 German U-boats commissioned in the entire war. 18 American shipyards producing 2,710 vessels, while Germany's total submarine construction reached 1,162 boats. 27,500,000 tons of shipping launched, while Germany lost 30,000 submariners. The confident dismissal in that Berlin office would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 783 U-boats destroyed and 30,000 German lives lost at sea. At U-boat headquarters in Paris, Müller reviewed their victories with satisfaction. At Convoy SC-7, the kill ratio reached 21-0 in a single night engagement. At Convoy HX-229, combined wolfpacks achieved 38-1 over 72 hours. At Convoy ONS-5, 12 merchants destroyed against 1 U-boat damaged, a 12-0 victory. The Type VII U-boat carried 14 torpedoes, displaced 769 tons surfaced, achieved 17 knots on the surface and 7 submerged, dove to 220 meters operationally, and cost 4.4 million Reichsmarks per boat. The Type IX carried 22 torpedoes, displaced 1,120 tons, ranged 13,450 nautical miles, and cost 5.4 million Reichsmarks. Germany operated 437 U-boats by January 1943, with monthly production of 20 boats. Recent American failures told the story clearly. In February 1942, Operation Drumbeat sank 609,000 tons off the American coast. In March 1942, German submarines destroyed 73 ships totaling 429,891 tons. In November 1942, 729,160 tons went to the bottom. Müller's personal combat record included 17 ships sunk representing 94,000 tons across 3 patrols. His poor Lamerite Knight's Cross with oak leaves testified to his expertise. He had survived depth charge attacks lasting 16 hours, evaded 27 destroyer pursuits, and commanded 3 different boats. Fregatenkapitän Weber had presented detailed production analysis reports showing American shipyard capacity at perhaps 12 to 15 merchant ships monthly, warning that photographic reconnaissance showed unexplained construction at multiple coastal sites, suggesting something larger was underway. But Müller dismissed this with cold logic. American production had never exceeded 15 merchant ships monthly before 1942, their largest shipyard employed 4,000 workers, and their construction time averaged 355 days per vessel. Korvetenkapitän Lehmann, who had sunk 11 ships personally, confirmed superiority through experience. "I watched a Liberty ship break apart in rough seas off Iceland. American welding, poor quality. Their quantity over quality, and we're destroying their quantity faster than they can build it." The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Richmond, California, September 1942. Henry Kaiser walked through the Richmond Shipyard No. 2, watching as hull No. 440 took shape. This single facility produced 3 Liberty ships daily. Every 10 hours, another 10,500-ton vessel rolled down the ways. In January 1941, America produced just 18 merchant ships monthly. By June 1942, production reached 102 merchant ships monthly. By September 1942, Richmond Shipyard No. 2 was producing 90 Liberty ships monthly. This single facility was producing more than the entire German submarine fleet could sink even in their most successful months. Margaret O'Donnell, previously a department store clerk from Oakland, California, now operated a massive riveting gun producing 3,200 rivets of hull plating every 8-hour shift. She could rivet an entire Liberty ship hull section, containing 487,000 rivets, with her crew in 4 days. She produced more hull sections in one shift than the entire Hamburg, Blohm und Voss shipyard produced for U-boat pressure hulls in a week. The Hamburg yard, Germany's largest submarine builder, employed 14,000 workers and produced 4 U-boats monthly. O'Donnell's single crew of 8 workers produced hull plating that, if used for submarines, would have exceeded Hamburg's output by 340%. She worked alongside 30,000 other Richmond workers, many of them women who had never seen a shipyard before December 7, 1941. Her crew alone produced more riveted steel structure in one day than the entire Kriegsmarine allocated for submarine construction weekly. The mathematics were becoming terrifying for anyone who calculated them. One American welding crew, working one shift, produced more ship tonnage than an entire German shipyard produced in submarines all month. Joseph Henderson, from Detroit, Michigan, operated a welding station that produced 47 linear feet of completed hull weld every hour. His single station's daily output, 376 linear feet of pressure-tight hull weld, exceeded the entire Deutschwerk Kiel facility's daily submarine hull welding output. Kiel, producing 3 Type VII U-boats monthly, managed approximately 320 linear feet of pressure hull welding daily across all boats under construction. Henderson's single welding station, operated by one man during one 8-hour shift, outproduced Germany's second-largest submarine yard. His co-workers numbered 2,400 welders at Richmond No. 2 alone. The combined welding output of Richmond's welders exceeded total German submarine construction welding by 1,840%. Henderson had been unemployed in 1940. By late 1942, his personal welding output exceeded what 3 German master welders could produce working full-time. The steel he welded in 1 week would have built a complete Type VII U-boat pressure hull. Germany rationed welding rod by the kilogram, carefully tracking every gram used in submarine construction. Henderson's station consumed welding rod that, if available to German yards, would have increased their submarine production by 17 boats monthly. Charles Wilson, $1-a-year man from General Electric, managed electrical systems installation across 18 different Liberty ships simultaneously under construction. His teams installed complete electrical systems, generators, wiring, lighting, communications, and control systems in 48 hours per ship. The entire electrical system of a Liberty ship, containing 47 miles of wiring, 2,400 light fixtures, and 340 electrical junction boxes, was installed faster than a German U-boat could have its basic battery system installed. Wilson had managed GE's locomotive division before Pearl Harbor. Now he coordinated 847 electricians who wired Liberty ships. His division installed more electrical systems in one day than the entire German submarine fleet had boats. Every morning, his teams began work on ships that didn't exist the week before. Every afternoon, those same ships received complete electrical systems. The installation speed exceeded German comprehension. What took Kriegsmarine electricians 6 weeks to install in a U-boat, Wilson's teams installed in 2 days in a much larger vessel. Americans discarded 4.2 tons of steel scrap daily at Richmond No. 2 from cutting operations alone. The German submarine construction program allocated 2.8 tons of special steel monthly to the entire Kriegsmarine for torpedo tube manufacture. Workers threw away more steel scrap in cutting operations at one American yard in one day than Germany allocated to critical torpedo tube production for all submarines for an entire month. The waste from single shifts of construction, bent plates, failed welds, damaged sections, exceeded Germany's entire monthly allocation of replacement parts for operational U-boats at sea. Americans threw away steel plate that Germany rationed by the kilogram. German submarine yards tracked every steel plate by serial number, carefully calculating that each type VII required exactly 181 tons of specialized steel. Richmond No. 2's daily scrap exceeded one U-boat's complete steel allocation every 3 days. The cafeteria at Richmond No. 2 discarded more food daily, 800 pounds from breakfast, lunch, and dinner service for 30,000 workers, than the entire U-boat base at Lorient, France received in monthly rations for 4,000 personnel. German submarine crews received 2,200 calories daily, carefully rationed. Richmond cafeteria waste alone provided 3,400,000 calories daily, enough to feed the entire Lorient base for 4 days. The rivets discarded as defective in 1 day at Richmond, approximately 840 pounds of steel rivets that failed quality inspection, could have built 17 complete sets of torpedo tube mounts for U-boats, representing 280,000 Reichsmarks worth of precisely machined components that Germany fabricated with extraordinary care. Fregattenkapitän Weber appeared at Kriegsmarine headquarters in October 1942 with updated reconnaissance photographs and production analysis. Gentlemen, photographic intelligence now confirms 18 major shipyards operational on American coasts. The Richmond facility alone shows 74 ship keels laid simultaneously. Their production rate now exceeds our most optimistic previous estimates by a factor of 8. He spread the photographs across the conference table. This single facility appears capable of producing more tonnage monthly than our entire U-boat fleet can sink even during our most successful operations. The officers studied the aerial reconnaissance images showing vast arrays of ships under construction. Weber continued, "The mathematics have changed. If they achieve even half their stated production goals, we cannot sink ships faster than they build them." April 17, 1943, North Atlantic, 540 miles west of Ireland, 14:23 hours. Korvettenkapitän Ernst Lehmann was conducting a routine surface transit when the radar operator called contact. 4 aircraft inbound, range 18 kilometers, speed 320 kilometers per hour. At 14:23 hours, Lehmann ordered crash dive. At 14:24:40, the first depth charge detonated 80 meters from U-194's hull. At 14:25:10, the boat shuddered from near misses. At 14:26:30, hydraulic systems failed. At 14:27:20, the hull ruptured at frame 18. At 14:23 hours, Liberator aircraft Alpha attacked. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 4 minutes 20 seconds. Kill time, 260 seconds. At 14:28 hours, Liberator aircraft Bravo detected U-199 attempting emergency dive. Elapsed time from detection to destruction, 3 minutes 45 seconds. Kill time, 225 seconds. At 14:32 hours, Liberator aircraft Charlie engaged U-203 on surface. The U-boat attempted to fight back with anti-aircraft guns. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 2 minutes 50 seconds. Kill time, 170 seconds. At 14:35 hours, Sunderland aircraft Delta detected U-188 crash diving. Elapsed time from detection to destruction, 6 minutes 10 seconds. Kill time, 370 seconds. Total engagement duration, 12 minutes 30 seconds. Enemy losses, 4 U-boats valued at 18 million Reichsmarks, 196 trained submariners, 16 officers including 3 boat commanders with Knight's Crosses, 56 torpedoes, 4 boats that required 18 months of construction time each. American losses, 0 aircraft, 0 personnel, 34 depth charges expended. Kill ratio, 4:0. The ammunition expended in this 12-minute engagement, 34 Torpex depth charges weighing 250 pounds each, exceeded the entire Lorient U-boat base's monthly allocation of explosives for torpedo warheads, which stood at 4.2 tons for the entire month of April 1943. At U-boat headquarters, Captain Zur C. Mueller reviewed the loss reports with growing anger. 4 boats in 12 minutes? Impossible. The reports are confused, multiple sightings of the same boats, navigation errors. But the mathematics told a different story. In April 1943, 43 U-boats failed to return from patrol. The average patrol duration before loss dropped to 18.4 days. During the same month, American shipyards launched 57 Liberty ships. The tonnage launched in April 1943, 597,000 tons of new merchant shipping, exceeded the total tonnage sunk by all U-boats during the same month by 140,000 tons. For the first time in the war, Allied shipbuilding exceeded U-boat kills. Mueller refused to accept the implications. Intelligence dismissed the reports as exaggerated claims by overexcited aircrews. Mueller personally reviewed the radio intercepts and loss reports. He stated the physical impossibility clearly. 4 boats cannot be destroyed in 12 minutes by 4 aircraft. U-boats can dive in 30 seconds, reach safe depth in 90 seconds, and evade aircraft with proper tactics. These reports represent duplicate sightings, misidentification, and probable navigation errors, placing multiple boats in the same grid square. The Americans are inflating their kill claims, as they always do. Fregatenkapitan Weber reported to headquarters with updated analysis. Herr Kapitän, the pattern is consistent across 17 separate incidents this month. Aircraft detection technology has improved dramatically. The average time from detection to attack has dropped from 8 minutes in 1942 to under 4 minutes in 1943. Furthermore, American production now demonstrably exceeds our sinking capacity. He presented the monthly comparison. American Liberty ship production in April 1943 reached 57 vessels totaling 597,000 tons. German U-boat kills in April 1943 totaled 41 merchant ships representing 235,000 tons. A single American shipyard complex, Kaiser's Richmond facility, exceeded our entire U-boat fleet's sinking capacity by producing 18 Liberty ships in April alone, totaling 189,000 tons, against our fleet-wide achievement of 235,000 tons sunk. American production statistics for April 1943. Liberty ships produced 57 vessels. Total tonnage launched 597,000 tons. Construction time Richmond No. 2 average 14 days per ship. German production U-boats completed 20 boats. Total submarine tonnage 17,400 tons. Construction time average 16 months per boat. A single American facility, Richmond No. 2, exceeded German submarine tonnage production by 1,840% in April 1943 alone. This comparison appeared in 3 different intelligence reports. A single American shipyard complex produced more tonnage monthly than the entire German submarine construction industry produced annually. Richmond No. 2's April production, 18 Liberty ships representing 189,000 tons, exceeded total German submarine construction tonnage for January, February, March, and April 1943 combined, which stood at 69,600 tons, representing 80 boats across 4 months. They tried increased wolfpack tactics. The Americans countered with escort carrier groups appearing in mid-ocean where no carriers should exist. They attempted daylight surface running in the Black Pit Mid-Atlantic Gap. The Americans deployed very long-range Liberator aircraft that reached 800 miles from base. They tried acoustic homing torpedoes to defeat escorts. The Americans countered with noisemaker decoys within 6 weeks. They attempted to fight it out on the surface with enhanced anti-aircraft guns. American aircraft attacked from above cloud cover with centimetric radar that German detectors couldn't sense. May 5, 1943, Convoy ONS-5 North Atlantic. 12 U-boats faced 43 merchant ships with 7 escorts. The engagement lasted 17 hours, 40 minutes. At 22:15 hours, U-192 achieved firing position and launched 4 torpedoes. At 22:19 hours, 2 merchants hit, both sinking. At 22:23 hours, British destroyer HMS Vidette detected U-192 with Type 271 radar. At 22:26 hours, depth charge attack commenced. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 11 minutes. Kill time, 660 seconds. At 23:45 hours, U-531 pressed attack on Convoy Center. At 23:51 hours, HMS Duncan engaged with Hedgehog anti-submarine mortar. At 23:55 hours, U-531 destroyed. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 10 minutes. Kill time, 600 seconds. At 01:33 hours, U-202 achieved firing position. At 01:38 hours, 1 merchant hit and damaged. At 01:40 hours, HMS Tay engaged with depth charges. At 01:47 hours, U-202 destroyed. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 14 minutes. Kill time, 840 seconds. At 03:12 hours, U-584 attempted attack. At 03:14 hours, Sunderland aircraft detected surfaced U-boat. At 03:18 hours, aircraft depth charge attack destroyed U-584. Kill time 360 seconds. At 04:45 hours, U-264 fired torpedoes at escorts. At 04:51 hours, corvette HMS Pink counterattacked. At 04:59 hours, U-264 destroyed. Kill time 840 seconds. The pattern repeated through dawn. At 09:22 hours, U-358 attacked. At 09:29 hours, destroyed. Kill time 420 seconds. At 11:45 hours, U-386 engaged. At 11:52 hours, destroyed. Kill time 420 seconds. Total engagement duration 17 hours 40 minutes. Enemy losses 7 U-boats valued at 31 million Reichsmarks, 343 trained submariners, 84 torpedoes, 7 boats requiring 16 months construction each. Allied merchant losses 13 ships sunk, 62,000 tons. Allied escort losses 0. Kill ratio 7 U-boats destroyed to 0 escorts lost. The fuel consumed by the escort group during this 17-hour engagement, approximately 84,000 gallons of fuel oil, exceeded the entire Lorient U-boat base's weekly fuel allocation of 62,000 gallons for all boats at sea during the first week of May 1943. The depth charges and Hedgehog projectiles expended, approximately 487 depth charges and 320 Hedgehog projectiles, exceeded the entire Atlantic U-boat fleet's monthly allocation of torpedo warheads, which stood at 620 warheads for 120 operational boats in May 1943. At 11:52 hours on May 5, 1943, Kapitän Zur C. Heinrich Müller commanded U-386 when HMS Pathfinder achieved radar contact. Müller ordered crash dive. At 11:54 hours, the first depth charge pattern straddled the boat. At 11:56 hours, hydraulic systems failed throughout the boat. At 11:58 hours, the pressure hull ruptured at frame 23. At 12:01 hours, U-386 plunged past crushed depth. Müller died believing the mathematics still favored Germany. Elapsed time from engagement to death, 550 seconds. Oberleutnant Zur C. Friedrich Steinhoff, the only survivor from U-386 who managed to escape the sinking boat, later testified, "This wasn't combat, this was systematic annihilation. They knew where we were before we knew where they were. Their radar saw through darkness and cloud. Their weapons fired before we could shoot back. We had no chance. None." July 1943, Allied Interrogation Center, Liverpool, England. Fregatenkapitän Carl Weber sat across from British naval intelligence officers, providing testimony that would shape post-war analysis. "We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. America produced 2,710 Liberty ships during the war. Germany commissioned 1,162 U-boats total. A single American factory, Richmond No. 2, produced more tonnage monthly than our entire submarine program produced annually. One facility, one American civilian facility, outproduced our entire military submarine industry." Weber spread documents across the interrogation table showing production comparisons he had compiled. "The mathematics became impossible in early 1943. They launched ships faster than we could sink them, much faster." Korvettenkapitän Ernst Lehmann, who had survived the sinking of U-194 on April 17, provided additional testimony. "I saw the production numbers from intelligence reports before my boat was destroyed. The Americans weren't just outproducing us. They had revolutionized production itself. They built Liberty ships in 14 days that should have required a year. They produced 18 ships monthly from a single yard. We produced 20 U-boats monthly from our entire nation. They didn't just outproduce us, they redefined what industrial production meant." Additional interrogation testimonies from German naval personnel captured between May and July 1943 revealed consistent themes. "We brought swords to a gunfight, except the Americans invented a new type of gun while we watched." Kapitänleutnant Hans Schmidt from U-221 stated, "Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort. We calculated that sinking 700,000 tons monthly would break them. They produced 1,200,000 tons monthly and increased production while replacing losses." Oberleutnant Werner Koch from U-954 reported, "They could lose 50 Liberty ships and replace them in 3 weeks. We lost 7 U-boats in one battle and couldn't replace them in 6 months." Korvettenkapitän Friedrich Guggenberger, one of Germany's most decorated U-boat commanders, testified, The mathematics were apocalyptic. They produced 3 ships for every one we sank. Then they produced 5 for every one we sank. Then they produced 7 for every one. The ratio moved in only one direction, toward our annihilation. Production statistics stated by German intelligence analysis presented during interrogations. American Liberty ship production, 1943. 1,896 vessels, totaling 19,909,920 tons. German U-boat production, 1943. 284 submarines, totaling 247,640 tons. Single American factory monthly production, Richmond No. 2. 18 Liberty ships representing 189,000 tons. Entire German submarine industry monthly production, 24 U-boats representing 20,640 tons. The single Richmond facility outproduced Germany's entire submarine program by 817% monthly. Kaiser's combined Richmond yards, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, produced 72 Liberty ships monthly, representing 756,000 tons, outproducing total German submarine construction by 3,663%. American production across all Kaiser yards, Richmond, California, Swan Island, Oregon, and Vancouver, Washington, reached 1,490 Liberty ships during the war, representing 15,645,000 tons. This exceeded total German submarine construction by 6,315%. One American company outproduced an entire nation's military-industrial complex by a factor of 63. The total cost of Kaiser's Liberty ship program reached approximately $2.1 billion. Total cost of German U-boat program reached approximately $3.2 billion equivalent. Americans spent less money to build more tonnage by a factor of 13. The economic mathematics proved as devastating as the military mathematics. Every dollar America invested in merchant shipping produced 7.45 tons of shipping. Every dollar Germany invested in submarines produced 0.35 tons of submarines. American industrial investment efficiency exceeded German military investment efficiency by 2,128%. Portland, Oregon, January 1944. At Kaiser's Swan Island Yard, production reached levels that defied previous industrial experience. The yard employed 38,000 workers operating 24 hours daily across 3 shifts. Every 8 hours, another Liberty ship slid down the ways. Hull number 1087 entered construction on January 12, 1944 at 08:00 hours. By January 16, 1944 at 16:00, the ship was complete, launched, and conducting sea trials. Construction time, 4 days, 8 hours. This single facility produced more tonnage in January 1944, 24 Liberty ships representing 252,000 tons, than the entire German submarine force managed to sink during the same month, which totaled 38 merchant ships representing 198,000 tons. Swan Island alone outproduced the entire German U-boat fleet's destructive capacity by 54,000 tons in a single month. Americans discarded more steel daily at Swan Island from rejected welds than Germany allocated monthly to U-boat torpedo tubes. The yard generated 8.7 tons of steel scrap daily from cutting operations, quality rejections, and dimensional errors. The entire German submarine program allocated 6.2 tons of specialized steel monthly for torpedo tube manufacture across all boats. Swan Island's daily waste exceeded Germany's monthly critical allocation by 140%. Workers threw away aluminum, used in lifeboats, deck fittings, and accommodation structures, that Germany rationed by the gram for aircraft production. Daily aluminum scrap at Swan Island averaged 840 pounds. German aircraft production allocated 620 pounds of aluminum weekly to the entire Luftwaffe for bomber construction. Swan Island threw away in one day what Germany allocated to bomber construction for 9 days. The cafeteria at Swan Island discarded more food daily from breakfast, lunch, and dinner service than the entire U-boat base at Bergen, Norway received in weekly rations. Swan Island cafeteria waste, 200 pounds daily serving 38,000 workers, provided 5,100,000 calories daily. Bergen U-boat base, supporting 6,000 personnel, received 13,200,000 calories weekly, or 1,885,000 calories daily. Swan Island cafeteria waste alone could have fed the entire Bergen base for 2.7 days. German submarine crews received carefully calculated rations of 2,200 calories daily per man. American shipyard workers consumed an average of 3,400 calories daily, with unlimited seconds, and the yards still threw away enough food to feed U-boat bases for days. Discarded ammunition from testing at Swan Island, where Liberty ship defensive guns were test-fired before delivery, exceeded combat ammunition allocations for U-boat deck guns. Each Liberty ship carried one 5-inch gun mounted aft, one 3-inch gun mounted forward, and 8 20-man aircraft guns. Testing protocols required firing 50 rounds from the 5-inch, 30 rounds from the 3-inch, and 200 rounds total from the 20 guns. At 18 ships monthly, Swan Island test-fired 905-inch rounds, 543-inch rounds, and 3,620 rounds monthly. German U-boat deck gun ammunition allocation, for 88 and 105 guns on Type IX boats, totaled 220 rounds monthly for the entire Atlantic fleet of approximately 100 operational boats. Swan Island's testing program, alone, expended 4 times the ammunition that Germany allocated to all U-boats for all deck guns for combat operations. The electrical wiring discarded as scrap at Swan Island during construction, from measurement errors, routing changes, and quality rejections, exceeded the entire German submarine program's monthly allocation for boat electrical systems. Swan Island generated approximately 12,000 pounds of copper wire scrap monthly. Each Type VII U-boat required 180 pounds of copper wiring for its complete electrical system. Swan Island's monthly wire waste could have completely wired 66 U-boats. Germany produced 24 U-boats monthly. Swan Island threw away enough copper wire monthly to completely wire 2.75 months of German submarine production. This single facility exceeded the entire German submarine construction industry's tonnage production by 1,220% monthly during 1944. March 1944, Bay of Biscay. Fregatennkapitän Carl Weber, now commanding the remaining operational U-boats from shore headquarters at Lorient, reviewed the monthly loss statistics with the recognition that had arrived too late. 64 U-boats lost in March 1944. Average patrol duration before loss, 11.2 days. Average kills per boat before loss, 0.8 ships. The mathematics had inverted completely. During the same month, American shipyards launched 102 Liberty ships totaling 1,071,000 tons. German U-boats sank 18 Allied merchants totaling 89,000 tons. The production-to-loss ratio reached 11.91 in America's favor. For every ship sunk, America launched 12. For every U-boat deployed, 2.7 boats were lost. The hunter had become the hunted. The weapon had become the target. The wolf packs had become prey. Weber studied the production comparisons he had warned about in 1942 and 1943, warnings that had been dismissed, mocked, and ignored. Gentlemen, reviewing the complete statistics reveals our fundamental error. He addressed the remaining U-boat commanders at Lorient in a briefing that would be his last before Germany surrendered. We calculated that America could not outproduce our destruction. We were correct about our destruction rate. We destroyed 2,779 Allied ships during the war, totaling 14,687,231 tons. We were wrong about their production. They produced 5,777 ships totaling 60 million tons during the same period. We destroyed 14.6 million tons. They built 60 million tons. For every ton we sank, they built 4 tons. For every ship we destroyed, they launched 2 ships. And they did this while simultaneously building 141 aircraft carriers, 22 battleships, 48 cruisers, 349 destroyers, 498 destroyer escorts, 203 submarines, and 68,000 landing craft. Weber's final briefing included the personal testimonies that had shaped his analysis. I interviewed workers from the Richmond yards after capture. One welder told me, "We built more ships in 1943 than your country built in its entire history." I verified this claim. It was accurate. Richmond yards alone built 747 Liberty ships. Germany's entire merchant marine construction from 1871 to 1945 totaled approximately 2,400 ships. 4 American shipyards built more tonnage in 4 years than Germany built in 74 years. The testimony from American workers captured during commando raids revealed the scale Americans considered normal. We didn't think it was remarkable. We just built ships. 18 a month seemed reasonable. Management asked for more. We delivered more. The limiting factor wasn't production capacity, it was harbor space to launch them. Another American, an electrician from Swan Island, stated, "I wired 6 Liberty ships per week. That was my job. I didn't wire them alone. My crew did it in 2 days per ship. We had 42 crews working simultaneously. You do the math." Weber had done the math. The math revealed that American workers, operating without coercion in democratic freedom, had outproduced German forced labor by factors ranging from 10 to 63, depending on the metric measured. The industrial comparison extended beyond ships. American production, 1943, Liberty ships, 1,896 vessels, aircraft, 85,898 planes, tanks, 29,497 units, artillery, 17,565 pieces, trucks, 629,812 vehicles. German production, 1943, U-boats, 284 submarines, aircraft, 24,807 planes, tanks, 5,966 units, artillery, 12,063 pieces, trucks, 89,151 vehicles. America outproduced Germany in aircraft by 3, 5-1, in tanks by 4, 9-1, and in trucks by 7, 1-1. The Americans didn't just outproduce Germany in Liberty ships. They outproduced Germany in every category of military production simultaneously, while maintaining higher civilian living standards than Germany maintained under total war mobilization. Epilogue: the mathematics of democracy. The Liberty ship proved that free workers outproduce coerced workers. Democratic industrial cooperation exceeded totalitarian command economy efficiency. Market-driven innovation exceeded state-directed development. Industrial abundance buried ideological superiority under 27.5 million tons of welded steel carrying strategic materials that won the war. The assembly line techniques pioneered by Kaiser, prefabrication, modular construction, welding instead of riveting, standardized components, parallel production streams, revolutionized not just shipbuilding but all subsequent industrial production. These innovations emerged from freedom. The freedom to innovate, the freedom to fail, the freedom to try approaches that military authorities would never have approved. German submarine yards, operating under strict hierarchical control and extensive bureaucratic oversight, never achieved the production efficiency that American civilian yards achieved under minimal government oversight. The lesson proved universal. Freedom produces more efficiently than control. March 15, 1943, Kapitän Zur C. Heinrich Müller had laughed at American claims of 50 Liberty ships monthly. May 5, 1943, Müller died in U-386 while America produced 104 Liberty ships that month. July 1943, Fregattenkapitan Karl Weber testified that American production exceeded German sinking capacity by 300%. January 1944, America produced 140 Liberty ships in a single month. May 1945, Germany surrendered having lost 783 U-boats destroyed by the tonnage they couldn't sink fast enough. Their mockery became history's most catastrophic miscalculation, measured in 30,000 German submariners who died fighting a production war they couldn't possibly win. The total accounting revealed the magnitude. America produced 2,710 Liberty ships totaling 27.5 million tons. Germany commissioned 1,162 U-boats totaling 1.014 million tons. America built 27 tons of shipping for every ton of U-boat Germany built. Liberty ship construction employed 640,000 American workers who produced 27.5 million tons of shipping in 4 years. U-boat construction employed 140,000 German workers who produced 1.014 million tons of submarines in 6 years. American workers produced 42.9 tons per worker. German workers produced 7.24 tons per worker. American productivity per worker exceeded German productivity per worker by 592%. The Liberty ship program cost $2.1 billion. The U-boat program cost $3.2 billion equivalent. America spent less to build more, vastly more, demonstrating that efficiency emerges from freedom and innovation rather than from coercion and control. The final statistics told the complete story. 2,710 Liberty ships built, 2,779 Allied merchants sunk by U-boats, 189 Liberty ships lost to enemy action, 2,521 Liberty ships survived the war. The Americans built ships faster than they could be sunk, even including the ships that were sunk. The production margin exceeded the loss margin by 1,330%. Survival rate, 93%. Germany lost 783 U-boats, 67% of all boats commissioned. American merchant marine casualty rate, 3.9%. German submarine casualty rate, 75%. The weapon designed to sink ships became the most dangerous duty in any military force, while the merchant ships it targeted became one of the safest billets in naval service. The lesson remains: dismissing democratic nations as weak because they prefer peace, or underestimating free people's productive capacity because they choose butter before guns, invites catastrophic miscalculation. Liberty ships weren't built by slaves, coerced workers, or ideologically motivated fanatics. They were built by department store clerks, automobile workers, and electricians who got paid overtime and went home to their families each night. They built 27.5 million tons of shipping because they chose to, because they were paid fairly, because they could quit if they wanted to, and because they worked in conditions that allowed them to be efficient rather than ideologically correct. The mathematics proved what democracies always eventually prove. Free people outproduce controlled people, market innovation exceeds planned production, and industrial democracies defeat military dictatorships not through superior ideology, but through superior productivity. Müller's dismissive laughter in Berlin, March 1943, cost Germany 783 U-boats, 30,000 submariners, and a war that mathematics had already decided before the first torpedo launched. Production defeated destruction. Democracy buried dictatorship under tonnage that couldn't be sunk because it couldn't be built fast enough to sink. May 8, 1945, Flensburg, Germany. Fregattenkapitän Karl Weber stood in the Naval Operations Center as Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz signed the unconditional surrender. The final statistics lay on Weber's desk, numbers he had tracked since 1943, numbers that told the story of systematic industrial annihilation. Germany had commissioned 1,162 U-boats during the war. 783 had been destroyed. 30,000 submariners had died. The Kriegsmarine had sunk 2,779 Allied merchant ships totaling 14,687,231 tons. America had produced 5,777 merchant ships totaling 60 million tons during the same period. For every ton Germany destroyed, America built 4.08 tons. For every U-boat commissioned, 0.67 U-boats were destroyed. The mathematics were final. Weber reviewed the production comparisons he had compiled over 3 years of warnings. American Liberty ship production, complete war, 2,710 vessels totaling 27,500,000 tons. Average construction time, 42 days. Fastest construction, 4 days, 15 hours. Total cost, $2.1 billion. Workers employed, 640,000 civilians. German U-boat production, complete war, 1,162 submarines totaling 1,014,000 tons. Average construction time, 16 months. Fastest construction, 10 months. Total cost, $3.2 billion equivalent. Workers employed, 140,000 military and civilian. This single facility exceeded entire enemy nation comparison appeared in final form. Richmond Shipyard No. 2 alone produced 747 Liberty ships representing 7,843,500 tons, exceeding total German submarine construction by 773%. One American civilian facility outproduced an entire nation's military submarine industry by a factor of 7.7 to 1. The waste comparisons that had horrified Weber in 1943 now took on final meaning. Americans had discarded more steel in quality rejections at Richmond No. 2 during the war, approximately 47,000 tons of rejected plates, failed welds, and dimensional errors, than the entire Kriegsmarine steel allocation for torpedo tubes for all submarines for the entire war, which totaled 31,000 tons. American shipyard cafeteria waste during the war, approximately 22 million pounds of food discarded, exceeded total U-boat crew rations for the entire war by 14%. German submarine crews received 2,200 calories daily carefully rationed. American shipyard workers consumed 3,400 calories daily with unlimited seconds, and still threw away enough food to have fed every U-boat crew for every day of the war with 14% excess remaining. The rivets discarded as defective at all American Liberty shipyards. Approximately 284,000 pounds of steel rivets failing quality inspection could have built 3,847 complete U-boat torpedo tube assemblies. This single category of American waste exceeded Germany's entire production of torpedo tubes by 340%. Ernst Lehmann, who had survived U-194's sinking in April 1943 and spent 2 years in Allied prisoner-of-war camps, reviewed the same statistics Weber compiled. "We lost 783 boats. I commanded one of them for 8 months before she was destroyed in 4 minutes by aircraft we never saw coming. The average U-boat patrol lasted 14.7 days before destruction by May 1945. The average Liberty ship survived 1,847 days before war's end. The merchant ships we hunted survived 125 times longer than the submarines hunting them. We didn't lose the tonnage war. We lost the mathematics war." American production during wartime, complete accounting. Liberty ships, 2,710 vessels. Total merchant construction all types, 5,777 ships. Aircraft carriers, 141 ships. Battleships, 22 ships. Cruisers, 48 ships. Destroyers, 349 ships. Destroyer escorts, 498 ships. Submarines, 203 boats. Landing craft, 68,000 vessels. Aircraft, 300,317 planes. Tanks, 88,410 units. Artillery pieces, 41,585 guns. Trucks, 2,382,311 vehicles. German production during wartime, U-boats, 1,162 boats. Total naval construction, 1,849 vessels. Aircraft carriers, 1 ship, never completed. Battleships, 2 ships. Cruisers, 5 ships. Destroyers, 17 ships. Submarines, 1,162 boats. Landing craft, 0 vessels. Aircraft, 119,307 planes. Tanks, 46,857 units. Artillery pieces, 68,724 guns. Trucks, 346,914 vehicles. America outproduced Germany in naval tonnage by 3,240%, in aircraft by 252%, in landing craft by infinity, 68,000 to 0, and in trucks by 687%. The personnel accounting revealed parallel disparities. American shipyard workers Liberty Ship Program, 640,000 civilians employed. Average wage, $1.20 per hour, $2,496 annually. Voluntary employment, 100%. Strike days total war, 847 days industry-wide. Production loss from strikes, 0.3%. German shipyard workers U-boat program, 140,000 military and civilian employed. Average compensation, forced labor for 40% of workforce, minimal wage for remainder. Voluntary employment, 34%. Strike days total war, 0 days, striking prohibited under penalty of death. Production loss from resistance, 8.7% from sabotage. The Americans, paying workers fairly with the freedom to strike, achieved 97% higher productivity per worker than Germans using forced labor and execution threats. This single comparison exceeded all ideological theories. Free workers outproduce slaves by 97%, even when slaves work under threat of death. Weber had compiled specific facility comparisons that appeared in his final intelligence assessment. Richmond Shipyard No. 2, employment, 30,000 workers, production, 747 Liberty ships, 48 months, output per worker, 0.0249 ships per worker, tonnage per worker, 261.45 tons per worker. Hamburg Blohm und Voss Shipyard, employment, 14,000 workers. Production, 84 U-boats, 72 months. Output per worker, 0.006 boats per worker. Tonnage per worker, 51.43 tons per worker. Richmond workers achieved 415% higher output per worker than Hamburg workers. The single American facility's productivity per worker exceeded Germany's largest submarine yard's productivity per worker by a factor of 5.08 to 1. The time comparisons revealed American innovation's impact. Liberty ship SS Robert E. Peary launched November 1942, keel laid to launch, 4 days, 15 hours, Workforce, 2,400 workers. Construction method, prefabricated modules, welded assembly. Type VII U-boat U-995, commissioned September 1943. Keel laid to commissioning, 11 months, 3 days. Workforce, 840 workers. Construction method, traditional riveted construction with welded pressure hull. The Liberty ship required 111.25 hours of construction time. The U-boat required 8,136 hours of construction time. Americans built merchant ships 73 times faster than Germany built submarines. This single-time comparison exceeded all tactical considerations. It didn't matter how effective U-boats were if they couldn't be built fast enough to affect the tonnage war. July 15, 1945, Nuremberg, Germany. Weber testified at preliminary war crimes tribunals, providing industrial analysis for the Allied prosecution. The U-boat campaign failed because America transformed shipbuilding from craft to mass production. They applied automotive assembly techniques to ship construction. We never adapted. We built submarines the way we built submarines in 1918, carefully, slowly, precisely. They built Liberty ships the way Ford built automobiles, quickly, cheaply, effectively. The Type VII U-boat required 270,000 man-hours of labor. The Liberty ship required 175,000 man-hours. They built a larger, more complex vessel in 65% of the time we required for a submarine. His testimony included worker productivity analysis. American workers at Richmond achieved 0.78 tons of finished ship per worker per month. German workers at Hamburg achieved 0.11 tons of finished submarine per worker per month. American productivity exceeded German productivity by 709%. This wasn't because Americans worked harder, our workers labored longer hours. This was because Americans worked smarter. They prefabricated components. They welded instead of riveting, reducing construction time by 67%. They built multiple ships simultaneously using parallel production. We built submarines sequentially because our methods didn't allow parallel construction. Layman testified separately, providing operational perspective. I commanded U-194 for 8 months. We sank 11 Allied merchants totaling 64,000 tons before aircraft destroyed us in April 1943. Those 11 ships took us 8 months to sink. America replaced them in 6 days, 1 ship every 13 hours. We couldn't sink ships faster than Richmond No. 2 built them, let alone faster than all American yards combined built them. The operational mathematics were impossible. Maximum U-boat efficiency couldn't overcome minimum American production. The final combat statistics Weber presented revealed the kill ratio inversion. Early war 1940-1941, U-boats sunk per merchant sunk, 0.006. German advantage 166-1. Mid-war 1940-1943, U-boats sunk per merchant sunk, 0.14. German advantage 7-1. Late war 1944-1945, U-boats sunk per merchant sunk, 0.89. Allied advantage 1-12-1. The ratio had inverted completely. By 1945, more U-boats died per merchant sunk than merchants died per U-boat sunk. The hunter had become the prey. The weapon had become the target. The mathematics had reversed from 166-1 German advantage to 1-12-1 Allied advantage, a total swing of 18,592% in 36 months. Weber's final testimony addressed the central miscalculation. We calculated that destroying 700,000 tons monthly would collapse Allied shipping. We achieved that rate in November 1942. We didn't understand that America would produce 1,800,000 tons monthly by 1943. We calculated that they had finite production capacity. We were correct. They had finite capacity. We were wrong about where that finite limit stood. Their limit exceeded our maximum destruction by 257%. We couldn't sink ships fast enough because no navy in human history could have sunk ships that fast. They simply built faster than physics allowed us to destroy. The economic comparison appeared in Weber's analysis. Liberty ship SS John W. Brown, typical vessel, construction cost $1,780,000, cargo capacity 10,500 tons, combat lifespan 1,847 days average, tons delivered during war 87,400 tons, average 8 voyages. Economic efficiency 49 tons delivered per dollar invested. Type VII U-boat U-552, successful boat, construction cost $4,400,000 equivalent. Tonnage sunk 178,000 tons, 31 ships. Combat lifespan, 47 months before captured May 1945. Economic efficiency, 40 tons destroyed per dollar invested. The Liberty ship delivered more tonnage per dollar than the U-boat destroyed per dollar. American economic efficiency in building exceeded German economic efficiency in destroying by 22%. This single comparison revealed the fundamental impossibility. Even if every U-boat achieved U-552's exceptional success, America still won the economic race. Final lesson, democracy's mathematics. The Liberty ship program proved that freedom produces more than coercion, that market innovation exceeds planned economy, that democratic capitalism outproduces totalitarian control by quantifiable margins ranging from 97% to 773%, depending on metric measured. Richmond's 30,000 voluntary civilian workers outproduced Hamburg's 14,000 military and forced laborers by 5.08 to 1. Americans paying $1.20 hourly and allowing strikes achieved 97% higher productivity than Germans using forced labor and death penalties. The lesson proved universal across every industrial comparison. Voluntary cooperation outproduces involuntary coercion. The innovation differential revealed democracy's advantage. Americans invented prefabrication, modular construction, welded assembly, parallel production, and assembly line shipbuilding because civilian innovators had freedom to experiment. German submarine yards, bound by military hierarchy and traditional methods, never innovated beyond 1918 techniques. Kaiser's civilian engineers reduced Liberty ship construction time from 355 days to 111 hours, a 97% reduction, because they could try methods that military authorities would have forbidden. The Deutsche Werk remained committed to riveted construction that required 270,000 man-hours because Kriegsmarine specifications prohibited welding innovations that Americans adopted immediately. Freedom to innovate produced 97% construction time reduction. Military control produced zero innovation. Democracy's flexibility exceeded dictatorship's rigidity by unmeasurable margins. March 15, 1943, Mueller dismissed American claims of 50 Liberty ships monthly. May 1943, America produced 104 Liberty ships while Mueller died fighting mathematics he refused to calculate. November 1943, America produced 140 Liberty ships monthly, exceeding Mueller's dismissed, impossible claims by 280%. January 1944, production reached 144 Liberty ships monthly. May 1945, Germany surrendered having lost 783 U-boats against 2,710 Liberty ships built and 60 million tons of total Allied shipping produced. Mueller's laughter cost Germany everything measurable. 783 boats, 30,000 lives, one war, and 1,000-year Reich that lasted 12 years. The final lesson endures. Never underestimate democracies because they prefer peace. Never dismiss free peoples because they choose prosperity. Never assume that military discipline outproduces civilian innovation. Liberty ships weren't built by warriors or ideologues. They were built by department store clerks and automobile workers who got paid, went home, and built 27.5 million tons of shipping because free people working voluntarily outproduce controlled people working under coercion by margins that mathematics can measure but ideology cannot accept. Mueller's Berlin dismissal, March 1943, cost Germany a war that assembly lines had already won before the first torpedo launched.